Senator Elizabeth Warren insisted women's issues and allegations of sexism are personal for her. So the question many are asking today, why did she spend so much time attacking just Mayor Mike Bloomberg while appearing to give Senator Sanders a pass? With me now, California Democratic Congresswoman Katie Porter, surrogate for the Warren campaign. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining me. Last night, Senator Warren came out swinging against Mayor Bloomberg again. He's not on the ballot in South Carolina. Instead of going after Senator Sanders, who leads her in delegates, and he's in her same political lane. What's her strategy?
What I heard from Elizabeth Warren last night was her ability to draw clear distinctions between herself and other candidates, including Senator Sanders, which I thought she did very persuasively right at the start of the debate. But she did it in a way that isn't sowing seeds of discord in the Democratic Party and in this process. So she clearly stated very clearly why she'd be a more effective president than Bernie Sanders. She drew distinctions between, they said, yes, we care about these same issues like Wall Street, but look, I'm the one who actually got a consumer agency put into law. We both care about enacting health care for people, but I'm the one that has a detailed plan that shows respect for every voter by giving them that information. So I actually thought what she did really well was draw distinctions between herself and the other Democrats on the stage, without kind of falling into some of the yelling and shouting and talking over each other. I think she sounded very presidential last night.
Well, she's not opposed to yelling and shouting. And she did say, and I feel that addressing sexism is very personal for her. It's not political. And she's pressing Mayor Bloomberg, and she has every right to, on his past comments about women. But if that's the case, if it's personal, not political, why isn't she raising similar concerns about Senator Sanders? His campaign was hit with allegations of harassment less than 4 years ago.
Well, I think one of the differences is that the conduct that we're talking about is with regard to Mayor Bloomberg personally. It's not with regard to his organization, although obviously his organization needs to take responsibility. I just saw the other day that his organization, in response to Elizabeth Warren pressing him on this issue, has announced mandatory sexual harassment training, which most companies and organizations have adopted long ago. So I think she is effective as an advocate for women and women's issues. But I think what you really see from her is a willingness to tackle these hard issues and hold people to account, something that she's been willing to do. And so she has a long record of being willing to stand up, to be a powerful voice to some of the most powerful financial institutions in the world, and now to powerful people on the political stage, including Mayor Bloomberg. She's not afraid of him. She's not afraid of Donald Trump, but she's shown that she knows how to press people to make the changes the American people need and deserve without falling into some of the shouting and insecurity that I think we saw from some of the other candidates.
But she made the decision to back away from Senator Sanders, who had said to her, a woman can't win the election, a woman can't be president. She's not pressing him on that anymore.
She made very clear that she thought that statement was unacceptable and that she disagreed strongly with it. But the reality here is that she's focused on beating President Trump. She's focused on needing to build the winning coalition to defeat Donald Trump in November. So it's possible to draw a distinction. So she said very clearly to Senator Sanders, I think what you said was wrong. I disagree clearly. I definitely think a woman can win. I'm going to be that woman. She didn't back away from that statement, but she didn't throw unnecessary flames at him. And I frankly don't think she's been unnecessarily harsh with Mayor Bloomberg either. I think he has reacted poorly to what are pretty normal criticisms and back and forth that you'll see on the debate stage. The fact that he's late to the party, the fact that he has a long-term affiliation with Republicans open him up to some critiques that he needs to be prepared to deal with. It's not fair to put this back on Senator Warren. She's doing her job, which is exposing differences between the candidates for voters to see and judge for themselves in a respectful, mature way.
Absolutely. I don't disagree. Quickly, before we go, as a sitting member of Congress, when you see Bernie Sanders' economic plan, free college, free trade school, Medicare, free housing, erasing student debt and medical debt, how realistic is it to get something like that passed? You know all the things Elizabeth Warren has gotten passed. Think about the money she's brought in from CFPB.
No, look, you have to have a plan for how you're going to get it done. The details matter. Being able to explain to skeptics, how are you going to fund this? How is this going to work? What are the steps you're going to take to pass it? And so while I agree with some of Senator Sanders' goals, for me, they're naked statements. What I want to know is, how are you going to enact this? And I want to make sure that the ideas that you're bringing to the table were developed in partnership with community. So the way that Elizabeth Warren has listened, for instance, to unions who have negotiated hard for their health insurance and then brought them into the conversation about her Medicare plan, about her, I think, is a real point of contrast with Senator Sanders. And I think we've seen her do that time and time again, which is reach out to the community. She's a great teacher, but she's a really good listener. And that's a really important quality in a president.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.